We'd like to know.
Hi, Susan. We're riding in a car, so we can't really chat. No, it's Judy and Paul from Hanson, Mass, Third Act, Mass.
Wonderful.
So good to see you again.
Yeah,
Great to see you at Dewey Square.
yeah.
Right. It's so good to see people we know, people we don't know. This is a great gathering. There is so much going on in the world and our country and our state. It's great that you can be a part of this effort tonight. All right, let's see. It's let's see. Cole, a direct message to you. Hayat is saying that she never got a Zoom link.
Okay, I'll send her one.
Lovely. Thanks so much. All right. Linda Davis. All right. Oh, um, okay. Well, let's get started. I'm Susan Mirsky. I'm the chair of MAPPA's Nuclear Disarmament Working Group, and this program is being sponsored by the Nuclear Disarmament Working Group and also MAPPA's Indigenous Solidarity Working Group. Tonight's program was developed by the Commonwealth Coalition for Democracy and Safe Energy. We are people throughout the state, including Beyond Nuclear and NEARS, concerned about nuclear power and currently, most pressingly, Governor Healey's attempt to repeal a referendum. In this time of concern about people, environment, and democracy, tonight's program is most relevant. I'm just going to give you some information about the run of the program. We'll have three great speakers that will be followed by an opportunity to take action. There'll be a message about the women's prison moratorium, and then time for questions. So, for the Q&A, please put your questions in chat with the word question so we can readily find it. Also, you can raise your virtual hand and we'll be alternating between chat and raised hand to let you know that tonight's program is being taped and will be sent to all who have registered. Our speakers. Deb Katz is the executive director of Citizens Awareness Network, a nonprofit grassroots New England organization fighting for clean air, democracy, and environmental justice. Can was instrumental in the closure of reactors in Massachusetts, Vermont, and Connecticut. And I don't know if any of you witnessed the nuclear waste cask tour, a cask on a truck demonstrating how those casks would be traveling on our streets and highways. Absolutely scary. We also have Diane Turco. She is the executive director of Cape Downwinders, a Cape Cod volunteer community grassroots organization with a mission to investigate, educate, and agitate for the protection of people and environment from ongoing threats to communities from Holtec Pilgrim's decommissioning plans and nuclear waste dump in the site in Plymouth. She has organized other impacted groups to form a united response. That also included the Boston Downwinders, letting us all know how we would all be affected, not just in Plymouth. And Chris Nord. Chris will be speaking on behalf of the Clamshell Alliance. He's a founding member of the Alliance, and he was there from the very beginning. Thank you, Chris. And the Citizens Awareness Network, Vice President and Board Member. Chris is also a member of C10, which monitors radiation levels close to Seabrook. And while specifically not representing the views of C10, Chris will be offering his own thoughts and observations in that area. So, as you see, we have some very knowledgeable and very engaged speakers. Deb, start us out.
Okay. Hi, I'm Deb Katz. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Awareness Network, as Susan said, a grassroots local and regional group. Nuclear power is not an abstract issue to us. We live in impacted communities in the shadow of nuclear reactors. Now, this summer, Governor Healy introduced legislation that would promote nuclear power in the state and undermine the democratic process. She's also promoting a new type of reactor, SMRs, small modular reactors, to be sited throughout the state. SMRs are experimental, untested, and only create more waste. Millions of tons of high-level waste, dangerous for centuries, already ring our state at 5 reactor sites. All are vulnerable to climate disruption and acts of malice. Like other grassroots groups, we're standing up against very powerful Goliaths. Alone, we can't solve the problems presented by an environmentally racist and fraudulent industry, an irresponsible regulator protecting polluting industries, or ambitious politicians. Our hope for change is educating citizens to the industry's false solutions and broken promises. Change comes from building alliances locally, regionally, and nationally to unite against these industries. In order to educate our communities about these dangers, we work with other safe energy groups and founded the Commonwealth Coalition for Democracy and Safe Energy, a coalition committed to real energy solutions. Governor Healy's energy bill has a poison pill hidden in its pages, not in the bill itself, but hidden in its introduction, in which she embraces nuclear power and undermines the democratic process. Tonight, our speakers will make Healy's plans visible. We hope our message can spread far and wide to as many people as possible so that the people of Massachusetts can choose their energy future. Thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to Diane.
Okay, Cole, the first slide. Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Turco, Executive Director of Cape Town Windows and a board member of Citizens Awareness Network. It's been an honor to be working with Deb and Chris. But let me begin. Back in 1979, a partial nuclear meltdown occurred at 3 Mile Island. At that time, Pennsylvania Governor Richard Thornburgh called for evacuation of pregnant women and preschool children from the area. That would have been about 3,400 people leaving the area, but instead, in the ensuing chaos, over 200,000 people fled the releasing radionuclides. There were no evacuation plans for the population at that time because the nuclear industry and the federal regulator, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, concurred that an accident with radiation release wouldn't happen, so there was no effective evacuation plans in place. This was the alarming reality. Neither the government nor the industry will protect the people. At that time, with the recognized public threat from nuclear power and the nuclear weapons freeze movement gaining popular support, a campaign was organized in Massachusetts that resulted in a 1982 binding public referendum question placed on the statewide ballot. This initiative called for no new nuclear power reactor construction and operation in the state without voter approval and a federal repository to take the high-level nuclear waste. It won by 76% and became Chapter 503 of the Acts of 1982, on the books today. Next slide. The people have the right to make decisions about our energy future as codified in this law. However, we now are seen as an assault on this democratic process. Governor Healey introduced an energy bill, H 4144, now being considered in the Joint Committee on Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy. While there are many good points in this bill, it also includes Section 45, which would repeal our 1982 law. The bill prologue states, this act would repeal a 1982 law that mandates that any new nuclear facility receive approval through a statewide ballot initiative, eliminating a major barrier to the consideration of small modular reactors that could improve reliability, stabilize prices, and decarbonize the region's power grid, unquote. And then on line 2319, Section 45, Chapter 503 of the Acts of 1982 are hereby repealed. And that's it. That's it. A major barrier to consideration of voters, a barrier. This is a direct attack on our democratic right to vote our position with debate, discussion, and deliberation, not wholesale sellout to the nuclear industry and the institutional partners. Let the people vote. Descend into democracy is an act of faith, and the citizens of Massachusetts will do no less than push back on this undemocratic move. We see the unraveling of our democratic republic on the national scene, and we won't let it happen here. The next slide. So let's look at the magical thinking of small modular reactors. The next slide. Cold. Yep. So let's look at the magical thinking of small modular reactors as a climate change answer. This is just manipulation by the industry and politicians. In fact, many subject matter experts scoff at the idea that SMRs will rescue us from the climate crisis. Former NRC Chair Allison McFarland has stated that SMRs are not viable to impact climate change. Dr. Edward Lyman of the Union of Concerned Scientists also concludes, quote, the hype surrounding SMRs is way overblown. Nuclear engineer Arnie Gunderson calls SMRs, quote, a nuclear mirage, and shares his point of view, quote, SMRs introduce a host of untested problems, including using higher enriched uranium closer to weapons grade, raising proliferation and safety concerns, unquote. Moving forward, we have a generational responsibility to provide real, clean, green, renewable, and safe energy resources. So where do we go from here? As Dr. Helen Caldecott has said, nuclear is not the answer. 350.org founder Bill McGibbon extols the Chinese solar efforts that have installed, quote, 3 gigawatts of solar power per day. That means they're putting up the equivalent of solar energy of coal-fired plants every 8 hours, unquote. And Dr. Amory Lovins of Stanford University points to a positive, clean, green, and safe energy plan beginning today. He speaks of the benefit of readily available microgrid solar energy centers instead of pursuing theoretical nuclear power. Quote, no need for grid connection. The solar microgrid needs few, if any, approvals, just cheap land. It's inherently safe, silent, automatic, virtually water and maintenance free, based on common commodities, zero emissions, portable, and durably profitable, unquote. He asks, quote, can your reactor do that? If not, why build it? Unquote. SMRs are not the answer to our energy needs. In the final slide. So why is Governor Healey denigrating our democracy by attempting to repeal a law that works for the people? To open the door for untested and expensive and waste-producing nuclear power reactors with serious proliferation issues? Governor Healey should be beholden to the people, not the propaganda of the nuclear industry and its institutional partners in misinformation. Let the people vote. Keep democracy alive. Remove Section 45. And now speaking, and now next speaking is a remarkable Chris Nord.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you, Deb. It's an honor to work with each of you. So I don't have any slides, so you just got me, and I have a title for my presentation, which is Why Does This Elephant Glow? So terms first, nuclear power is atomic power. Atomic power was devised in the 1950s as a way for commercial industry to provide weapons-grade uranium and plutonium for the military's atomic bomb development. Atomic power helped land humanity at 1 minute to midnight on the doomsday clock, where we remain and where profits have been just grand. And then a couple of metaphors. You cannot climb Mount Everest without establishing a base camp and moving a whole lot of gear. You cannot build a modern hospital without the high-tech infrastructure, and you cannot build a power plant without creating a whole fuel cycle that supports it. So stating the obvious, atomic power is the most complex means of electrical generation currently in wide use. Because the fission process at these reactors requires mining, milling, fuel enrichment, construction, transportation, decommissioning of radioactive sites, extraordinarily long-term radioactive waste management, and a whole lot of concrete fabrication, the industry's claim of clean is absurd and a bald-faced lie.
Mhm.
For Governor Healy to say that atomic power is, quote, carbon-free, unquote, is like saying that a flying squirrel does not need trees.
Mhm.
Why would a flying squirrel not need trees? Because it's flying. So tell me, is that logical? Neither is Governor Healy's logic. So by the way, not only does atomic power produce twice as much carbon as solar, the cost of solar installation is diminished by 90% since the year 2000, making it cost competitive worldwide,
Mhm.
while the cost of atomic power only goes up. If only those solar panels had stayed on top of the White House 45 years ago, Southern Florida might not have to be repossessed by Neptune before the end of this century. That right there is the power of our choices. So I must inform you that there is a glowing elephant in the room, making clean energy a very bad joke. All atomic reactors produce radioactive byproducts that are among the most deadly, dangerous known substances. And most of these are here on the surface of the Earth in these life-threatening quantities and concentrations because of atomic power. And yet the atomic industrial complex continues to birth these deadly fission products without any way to manage them safely for the near eternity required by their toxic lifespans. As we speak today, the industry is twisting government's arm to allow storage of high-level nuclear waste in parking lots, preferably in poor, indigenous, and Hispanic communities in the Southwest, in direct violation of the current requirement that long-term isolation be operational first. If industry gets its way, this will very likely turn what is dubbed consolidated interim storage into a long-term headache for future generations, because neither the industry nor government wants citizens to realize the extreme global hazard they have put us in, creating ever more of this toxic waste that we don't know how to safely manage. The failure of adherence to democracy at the federal level is mirrored here in Massachusetts, where our governor has capitulated to Holtec's tight-fisted insistence that radioactive waste from the shuttered Pilgrim plant should be and can be evaporated directly into the air. This defies all common sense and Governor Healy's own campaign promises, and it violates our state's Ocean Sanctuaries Act. Because Holtec is allowed to openly break the law, we must remember that this cost-saving shortcut will serve as the precedent corporations will invoke with all other states where decommissioning is needed. So small modular reactors, I got to tell you, we literally don't have time for this. Nearly 30 years ago, researchers at the Rocky Mountain Institute showed that building new atomic reactors as a way to stem climate change was not only economically viable. In fact, they found that for every $100 spent on developing new reactors and their infrastructure, rather than investing in existing truly sustainable energy production, a ton of extra carbon would be released into the Earth's atmosphere. In the last 10 years, RMI findings were substantiated by Dr. Benjamin Sovacool, director of the Institute for Global Sustainability at Boston University. He stated, every dollar you spend on nuclear, you could have saved 5 or 6 times as much carbon with efficiency or wind farms. Today's atmospheric heating shows evidence of slowing the mid-Atlantic currents, which could lead to a much colder northern hemisphere. Our best scientific modeling cannot yet predict how this will go. But either way, climatic changes humanity has set in motion are accelerating and will very quickly move past the point in time where we might have any real mitigating effect on the change to Earth that we have set in motion. The SMR concept is a rainbow that recedes before us as the industry attempts to develop it. Many of the SMR concepts intend to recycle fuel. They're calling it recycling, a green euphemism for reprocessing, which is a nuclear weapons technology that has proven to be extremely hazardous. And remember, we are then adding more carbon-intensive phases to the fuel cycle. What humanity needs at this moment are proven technologies that deliver energy with minimal carbon and/or toxic byproducts. If we truly want any hope of mitigating human-caused climate change, we have to stop this push to develop new reactors and, as rapidly as possible, build truly sustainable energy sources. Let's find a way together to make it so. Thank you.
You're going to turn it over to me, Chris, again, or?
I'm all
Do you-
set. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Yeah, please, go ahead, Deb. All
Okay,
done. Thank you.
there we go. So, as I said, Healy wants to bring nuclear power back to the state, even though the nuclear industry and the federal government has yet to create a scientifically sound and environmentally just solution for the high-level nuclear waste stranded at sites that surround our state. To do this, she wants to repeal this act, as Diane talked about, that requires a people's referendum on nuclear power before any reactor can be built. The 1982 Act received overwhelming support when it was adopted. Now it's in the governor's way. The repeal of our rights to decide our future is unacceptable and dangerous. It is a meltdown in democracy. There are a lot of cheerleaders for nuclear power. The industry is desperately trying to reinvent itself as a clean source of energy. The people you never hear from are the impacted communities which suffer their broken promises. These communities were targeted for clean nuclear because they were working poor, rural, people of color, and indigenous. They're forced to choose between short-term economic survival and long-term health and safety. These communities live with the contamination of their waterways, air, and land. They live with the intimidation found when a corporation controls their resources. They live with increases in diseases, and they live with the radioactive waste trapped at reactor sites throughout America. Now, before the industry has solved its waste problem, it wants to do it again. Adding insult to injury, states like Massachusetts are entertaining nuclear power, whether SMRs, fission, or fusion. This is a grave mistake. I live 16 miles from Vermont Yankee and 4 miles from the Yankee Rowe reactor, which sits on the banks of the Deerfield River. My town was host to the first commercial reactor in America. Why? Because we're a working poor farming community in Western Mass. The advocating for nuclear energy, while there is no solution to its deadly waste, is a slap in the face to communities that have borne nuclear power's assault on our lives. Our communities are stuck with high-level radioactive waste with nowhere to go, vulnerable to acts of malice and climate disruption. Many promises were made to my community, many broken. The corporation maintained that the reactor was safe, non-polluting, and that when it shuttered, the site would be returned to its former beauty. When lightning struck the reactor in 1991, citizens began meeting, fearing what could happen if there was an accident. The corporation began holding meetings as well in the local towns. In a packed school gymnasium, we raised our concerns about an accident, the potential contamination of our river. A chemist from the reactor got up and said, "Hell, we've been dumping in your river for 30 years. What's the difference?" Shock. What's the difference? The river is the lifeblood of our community. Why didn't we know? Reactors must dispose of their waste to operate. The main releases into the air and water. The Deerfield River became a waste dump, contaminating plants, animals, and human beings. Not only did the company pollute the river where our kids swim, where we fish, both in water we use to irrigate crops in drought, it cooled the reactor with river water, sucking hundreds of millions of gallons of river water every day, only to return heated water that undermined the river and destroyed aquatic life. Our river never froze after the reactor was built. This company controlled our waterways and our lives. It bought our silence by donating needed services like ambulances, school computers, teaching science classes. People were afraid to speak openly, and those that did were threatened and more. Mothers worried about the high numbers of children with Down syndrome asked for our help. We created a health committee with the mothers, local health professionals, experts, and eventually the Mass Department of Public Health. We learned things we never wanted to know. Statistical significance in cancers, a 10-fold increase in children with Down syndrome, high rates of miscarriage, heart disease, immune deficiency diseases, and children with disabilities. You have to understand, less than 8,000 people live in our valley. There shouldn't be any statistical significance. We pay our electric bills at our medical centers. Now, we shut Rowe and went on to shut other New England nukes. Given how our community was harmed by Rowe's contamination, our focus became radioactive waste and environmental justice. It's a hard campaign. It's not sexy like shutting a nuke or fighting for democracy. With Healy's initiative, we're now fighting the return of nukes, the undermining of democracy, and nuclear waste. Many people need to be re-educated on these issues. People's actions can change the course of history if they are informed. Then there's dealing with the issues of waste. Everyone wants the waste removed, but at what price and who suffers the consequences? Are we willing to clean our community and sacrifice another, knowing how this waste hurt us? Rowe shipped the waste it didn't dump in our community to a waste site over 900 miles away to Barnwell, South Carolina, a 46% working poor Black community. Could we accept that the waste that hurt us could hurt another? We fought those shipments, raising awareness about the industry's environmental racism. And what remains 60 years later? 40 million curies of high-level waste on the banks of our river with no destination, no solution. And the industry's plan? It's targeting working poor Hispanic communities in the Southwest, overwhelmingly opposed by state and local governments alike. This is environmental racism. It's reprehensible. We oppose these false solutions. We can't accept that another community will suffer to clean our community up. We must accept that the waste must remain on site until the government does its job. This isn't easy. Dangers remain. Look, in a post-9/11 world, there are acts of malice. 40 million curies of high-level waste are on that riverbank. To give you a comparison, a hospital has on hand to do all the cancer treatments as well as research. 3 to 5 curies. 40 million curies is a lot of waste. Is it dangerous? This waste must be isolated from the environment for 10,000 years. It will be dangerous for over 1 million. The National Governors Association stated that the high-level nuclear waste at reactor sites were pre-deployed weapons of mass destruction. Over 25 attorney generals, including Massachusetts, appealed to Congress to take action to protect these sites. They're still waiting. Then there's climate disruption. Above Rowe are two dams, the Sherman Dam and the Harriman Reservoir. Harriman is over 2,000 acres. It has a spillway, the first done in America, designed to address flooding. In Hurricane Irene, the workers repeatedly released water through the spillway, fearing the dam could break, driving a 20-foot wall of water down into the valley, including our town's nuclear waste canisters, leaving our valley uninhabitable for decades. The National Academy of Science last spring released their study to address climate disruption and maximum precipitation events, as they call it. The study focuses on the vulnerability of infrastructure, dams, energy generation, including nuclear. Participating in the study were federal regulators from FERC and NRC. Both acknowledge there is no guidance in place to deal with massive flooding. Look, for all its claims, nuclear is neither clean nor green. It is a dirty, toxic technology. It relies on its invisibility to keep its lies going. And when its lies fail, its intimidation fails, it falls back on a captive regulator to protect it. Clean water, clean air, clean land, and a safe place to live are our rights. We fight for the cleanup of all communities. We wake people up in a world that wants them to stay asleep. We must act to defeat the governor's poison pill. We need to give Healy and this legislature notice that their abridgment of our democratic rights is unacceptable. They are beholden to the people, and the people have spoken in 1982, and we are speaking again. We have a right and a responsibility to determine our energy future for ourselves and for generations to come. Thank you.
Bravo, Deb, and Diane and Chris. This is the moment when, as Deb says, it's time to take action. And Diane has said, take action. Chris has said, take action. So Cole, can you put on our action item that we have? And let's take a few minutes and let's, would it be good if you put it in chat? Also,
Yes, I will.
so that everybody can look at chat, click on that link when it gets on, and fill it out. It just takes a minute. And this is to connect with the heads of the Joint Committee on, what is it? The Joint Committee on,
Telecommunications,
yes, telecommunications, what?
utilities and energy. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks. Right. So that is Senator Barrett and Representative Cusack and your own state legislators. Let them know that this is an abridgment of our rights. It is a meltdown of our democracy in a time when this is unacceptable. And as the speakers have pointed out, nuclear power is not the way to go. It's dangerous and it needs citizen input in terms of discussion. So please fill this out. And if you're out of state, let's see, use a mass group. Let's see, I guess you can't take it out of state.
Look, radiation knows no borders. As a New Yorker, you're close enough.
Right. Let your state legislators know
Yep.
that this is an issue, and wherever you live, You do not want nuclear power in your state.
May
You
I, may I,
want
may I
new,
break in? May I break in just to say that what is happening here in the Massachusetts is going to happen in every state where there's a
Yeah,
nuclear power plant. And
yeah.
everybody nationally has to begin to take action to ensure that it stops right here so that it cannot happen anywhere else. This is where we have to turn it around.
thank you so much, Chris.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, please, that's great. So this is for new reactors, and it's also for those reactors that are being relicensed. Wherever you are, take action. Um, okay, the link is in the chat. Fill it out, and now it's time to turn it over to Rosemary Keene. Rosemary Keene is the not only the co-president of Mass Peace Action, but she is also the chair of our Racial Justice Working Group. And she's going to talk for a minute about something else that Maura Healey is doing that we need to be aware of, and it's all related. So, Cole, can you find Rosemary and let her speak?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Susan. And thank you all for those wonderful presentations. I learned some things, and it's interesting how our two issues, I'm going to be talking about the governor's plan to build a fancy, big, new prison for women. And I'll just say, I am actually the co-convener with Claire Goslin of our Racial Justice Indigenous Solidarity Group. And I see Craig is here this evening, and he's another one of our key people, and also Nancy. I don't know, there could be more, but those are the people I saw. So it was about 5 years ago now, I believe, that a number of organizations, Families for Justice's Healing, and a group called the National Alliance of Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls were two key groups, the Bail Fund and quite a few local groups who work on issues of criminal legal justice, so-called. And so the movement grew. Mass Peace Action was involved early on. The legislation was introduced to have a prison construction moratorium, a 5-year moratorium on the building of any new prisons or jails. And it was such a good idea that remarkably, the first time it was at the State House, both the House and the Senate passed it. However, Governor Charlie Baker vetoed it. And so one of the things I noticed as you were talking was the issue of industry putting its thumb on the scale. And of course, that has happened in this situation as well with the architectural firm. And I can't even tell you, I should have a good list of all the various groups that are in favor of building a new women's prison. A few more facts about it. There are right now just over 200 women imprisoned in Massachusetts. And many of them could be at home with family or living in nursing homes. Many are older and ill. The Families for Justice's Healing and the People Not Prisons, the groups that have worked on this together, have done such an amazing job at continuing to push for the prison moratorium. One historic thing that happened was they achieved having imprisoned women in Framingham testify at hearings at the State House. And you can imagine very moving and very powerful testimony. So the second go round, the legislation didn't get through both houses, and now we're on the third go round. And in the beginning, the first two legislative sessions, it was a $50 million prison that we were talking about. And since Governor Healy was elected, the coalition working on the prison construction moratorium has been repeatedly reaching out to her and had noticed that they weren't really getting a response until on June 30th this year, they read the announcement from the Healy administration that, lo and behold, they were proposing a $362 million prison. I believe it's a bond fund is how they would finance this. So, of course, banks and various financial entities were happy about that. How much time do I have, Susan?
Less than a minute. If you
Okay.
could wrap it up, that'd be great.
Great, I shall. What was mentioned in the previous discussion about this happening in other states, this is happening in other states. Vermont has a proposal for a new prison. And as we know, especially with the current administration, there's a big push for locking people up. So that's a commonality. Another one is community devastation. We had a few years ago a diagram of the communities of Boston that line Blue Hill Avenue. And on each house where someone had been in prison, there was a little red dot. And so you could see the family devastation that this very bad case of measles throughout these neighborhoods. And of course, the issue of racism, which is prominent in the nuclear power world, is the main story. Mass incarceration, as we know, followed Jim Crow. And Families for Justice's Healing and the groups that are working on this have this vision of ending incarceration for women, which is such an inspiring goal. And because, of course, it would then mean once we do that, then we can, and while we're doing that, we'll also be focusing on ending incarceration, period. So we will have an action for everyone to take, and we'll send it to you. We'll have an e-alert where we can contact our state reps and senators on this issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. Right, and we wonder what that prison would be used for, right? Who would be going in there? Pretty cynical. So a lot to get in touch with Governor Healy about and not let her off the hook. I was notified that apparently our every action and our action item did not include sending a message to Barrett or Cusack. So please write to both of them. I will also to mention again that everybody who registered will get a copy of the video and also the address, the email address, how to contact Barrett and Cusack. Important to do as soon as possible. Call them, even though they might not, they're not your senators or reps. They are beholden to everybody in the state. Chris, you had
Actually, Susan, I have a late breaking update on this. It's been confusing. It actually is sending it to Barrett and Cusack as well as to your own state legislator and Senator, it's confusing the interface, but it actually is sending it to all four.
Oh, wonderful. Love late breaking news. Great. Of all the news we get, that's good news. However, aside from this email, always good to call them, send another message. The more the better. Okay, thank you. Now, we're going to go on to.
May I break in just for a second?
Sure,
I
Chris.
just wanted to mention that because I was responding to somebody in the chat just a second ago, I realized that a number of people were asking for the comments of Deb and Diane and myself in writing, and I wonder if we made them available to your group, Susan. Could you make them available digitally to people who are asking for them? Can that be done?
Cole, can that be done? And can we put it on?
Sure, if you
Can we
send
put
us-
it on the email that goes out?
Yeah, if you send us a bunch of stuff, resources or comments, we can, Susan
Sure.
will include it
Yeah.
in the follow-up
Okay.
message we're going to send after the
Yeah.
event. Yeah,
We can get it.
totally.
Yeah.
Great.
Right. Susan or somebody else who knows how to use a computer much better than I do. Okay, let's go on to Q&A. I have to say that my friend and colleague, Mary Ellen Kuglis, jumped in at the last minute to say, yes, she would handle Q&A. And Mary Ellen is a MAPPA board member, and she's our treasurer. She's a CD4 activist from Fall River. And just to say, for any of you who came on a little bit later, that there are two ways of putting your question out there. One, put it in chat and put question before it so we can identify it readily. The other way is to use the raised hand function, like Paul Gunter is doing. And Mary Ellen can alternate between raised hand and also chat. So, Mary Ellen, where are you? Why don't you come on?
Here I am.
Okay, can
Yeah,
we spotlight Mary Ellen while she handles these and she throws them out to questions to Diane, Christopher, Deb, and even Rosemary?
So yes, I am going to alternate between the raised hands, and I don't see questions in the chat quite yet, but take your time and do that. So I see Paul Gunter.
Oh, can I just jump in 1 second, Mary Ellen? I
Yes.
forgot to say that there may be a lot of questions, and I don't know how much time we have, but I make your questions as short,
Yes.
as brief as possible, and so that we can get to as many questions as possible.
Right. So everyone has a chance. Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, thank you. Paul Gunter from Tacoma Park, Maryland. I'm with Beyond Nuclear. My question is actually, I'd like to hear it from all of the speakers. What's changed since the nuclear power vote in 1982 there in Massachusetts that would give Governor Healy any rational reason for repealing the vote? And there is this concern that Healy's not alone. There are 8 other Democratic governors that are basically doing the same sort of thing. So, do you think that there's some kind of organized effort that is influencing Healy?
Yes,
Diane, do you want to go first?
Holtec,
Have at it, and then
Holtec.
I'm sure the two of us will.
Right. Holtec. You see
Oh.
Holtec in their nefarious situations in Michigan and New York, and we have them right here in Massachusetts. And they have already said they want to put small modular reactors at the Pilgrim site. And when I talked to Pat O'Brien, who's their main PR person, I asked him, are you planning to do that? He said, well, there's that bill, that law in place, and if that's repealed, then we perhaps we'll be doing that. And it just came out that they are planning to put SMRs there. But that's so far in the future, and it's such a shell game with them, but I think they're a lot behind it. And they're also connected with, with MIT and Lowell, University of Lowell. They're also promoting small modular reactors.
I think part of this is an issue of education. You know, when we defeated the mobilization back in 2000 around high level waste and Yucca Mountain, and we educated people and legislators, it had a powerful effect. And everyone went back to sleep, and reactors were shutting, and it all looked like it was over, and we were ready to dance in the streets. And of course, that's a very dangerous time when you feel comfortable, both for us and others. And I think the notion of waking people up who are asleep is part of the issue in terms of ordinary people and generations of younger people who just have not been exposed to the issues of reactors and waste. And the industry is very effective with their manipulation and their stories and their lies. I mean, but I think legislators also need to get educated. I think we're at a point where we have to do it again. You know, I always see, and I think that this is a campaign that's brilliant by the industry, that is across the board in every state they're working this. But I always see, you know, the nuclear industry is vampires, and every time you think you've staked them through the heart and they're down, they rise again. And they're rising again in this moment in which they can use the manipulation of climate and clean and all of this. In fact, as I say, because you can't see it. If they had to die, the emissions from reactors green, then people wouldn't want nukes because their river would turn green, their air would be green, and suddenly it would be a different story. So I think we need legislation that says if it's clean, painted green, and let's see how it goes.
So my answer to you, Paul, has to do with a deal that I believe that Governor Healy has made with the state of Connecticut. As an example, the state of Connecticut has power to sell from Millstone, and she basically was allowed herself to be strong-armed by the governor of the state of Connecticut, that and convinced that she could buy Connecticut nuclear power and use that to meet a quota that claimed that she was achieving clean power in the state by a certain date. So that's the impetus for her to call nuclear clean, and that I think is being repeated across the country because it is it is perceived to be, and the nuclear industry has done a great job of convincing people that it is carbon free, which is why I was trying to make the point that it is not in fact carbon free, far from it. So that's part of it, and part of it is that I think Holtec had their own arm twist with Healy because from the Pilgrim site, they went from having a lot of extra money to suddenly being in financial trouble a year or so ago because of a downturn in the stock market. And I think that it's safe to say that they made it clear to Healy that if she wanted to press the issue about the water waste being evaporated off, that they would declare bankruptcy and walk, and they would leave it in the hands of the state of Massachusetts. And rather than see that happen, she's folded and capitulated to Holtec. I mean, I'm just guessing about all of that, but I've wondered myself. I mean, I think she's a wounded person who is in a terrible position, and I'm not trying to make any excuses for her, but that's what it looks like to me. I can tell you that when Diane and myself and a few of Diane's close friends from the Cape were at the hearing where this bill was discussed last month or a month and a half ago, Governor Healy walked right past us and wouldn't look at any of us either time when she walked to the podium and when she walked away. And she knows Diane personally, but she knows that she's going back on her word. And it was obvious that pains her, but she's going to do it. So that's the situation we're all in.
Thank you.
She's
Wow.
also getting a bunch of money from the
Absolutely.
nuclear industry. Let's not forget that.
Profits abound. Yep.
That doesn't hurt, certainly.
Yeah.
So many great questions and hands. So let me, let's see. There's one that said, maybe kind of an obvious one, but I think it still should be addressed. Rhonda Roth says Trump slammed green energy again at today's UN session. So why is this Fed administration boosting nukes? Anyone want to take that on?
Why is the Trump administration boosting nukes? Well, it's part of Kong, you know.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's green energy, right? So maybe that's why they're who
I don't
knows,
think,
right?
I don't
Well-
think Trump gives two hoots about
Right.
green, honestly.
No.
And
No.
I think there's this connection with data centers and the tech industry. And the
Right.
tech industry is very big on nukes at this point. And so sort of, in fact, trying to bring like 3 Mile Island back and tying it into data centers, which is also what Healy wants to bring to Massachusetts. Let's not forget that. She wants to bring data centers and she's connecting it to nukes. And so the revival, you know, of these zombie plants and bringing them back is part of it. And the tech industry, what the tech industry gets from this is that they get a massive subsidy in the fact of all the power to the site. So if they had to get a new site, they had to spend, I don't know, hundreds of millions, $1 billion. I don't know what it would take for them to set up the electrical lines and have all of that energy on the site to use. And what you have with downed reactors is you have the site already there and they're getting it cheap. And so that's part of why they want to use these sites and revitalize them, because it's a cheap fix for them to move forward.
And Catherine just put in a great article by Amory Lovins that I mentioned in my talk. And he talks about these solar micro sites that look perfect, that we don't need to be going to nuclear. They're cheaper, fast, cleaner, and everything else. So it's kind of a game with imagination. And the reality is we already have what we need if we use it, rather than going for nuclear.
Thank you. I'm going to take a question from Judith Lord.
Actually, it's from me, Paul George. I'm sitting
Very
right
good.
next to Judy.
Very good.
I have just a couple of quick comments. How long can we go till today, Susan?
Good
Are we
question.
overtime practically?
There's, I see lots of hands, and I don't know if there are other questions in the chat. So, I think
I'll try to be.
the speakers have said that they could go until 8:15. So let's make the questions really pithy and, quick.
I'll be really quick. I have a couple of comments to make. First of all, I want to thank Diane and Deb and you, Susan, and Chris, and everybody else. Thank you. I would like to see a follow-up, please, so that we can get more stuff out. Okay, I'll try to make this as quickly as possible. You referred to, Susan, this is a referendum. This is actually a law. It's initiative. It was by initiative petition. It's called Question 3, 1982. Right here, I don't know if you can see this. This is the text, the actual text of the law. It only takes about 1 page. There's only 9 sections. And it was mentioned that it passed overwhelmingly. Okay. I have the figures here. It passed actually by 67+%, more than 2 to 1. Barnstable County, 66%, Berkshire County, 60%, Bristol, 70%, Duke, 73%, Essex, 69%, Franklin, 68%, Hamden, 66%, Hampshire, 71%, Middlesex, 66%, Nantucket, 73%, Norfolk, 67%, Plymouth County, 69%, the town of Plymouth itself, 69%.
So may I ask, I'm sorry,
et cetera, et cetera. I have all the figures for every single one of the 351 cities and towns. I have them right here that I got from the elections division at the Secretary of the Commonwealth. And you know something? Every single town in the Commonwealth passed this. Every single town approved, except for the town of Rowe that lost only by 4 votes. Four
Yeah.
votes only.
Okay, your
So,
question is?
the point I'm trying to make is
Paul, we're going to
Laura
mute you if you
Healy.
don't ask a question.
Yeah,
Ask a question right now, or we're going to
okay.
mute you.
Here's the question. How many people want to show up next Tuesday, September 30th, from 11 to noon at the Boston Public Library for the WGBH, where Maura Healy's going to be there live in person? Ask the governor next Tuesday, September 30th, from 11 to 12, the Central Library in Copley Square.
That's a great
Okay,
idea.
I'll be there.
Okay, thank you so much. I see another really interesting question from Dawn Kramer, who admits she's not a scientist, but she supports solar, wind, and geothermal. And the MIT scientists at the State House hearing claim that fusion is so totally different, much safer. So perhaps, can you address the fusion question, since this might be coming up more and more in the future? Anyone want to take that on?
This is another wet dream of the nuclear industry. They've always got some new, bright, shinier way to do something, and fusion isn't there yet. It hasn't happened. And in a certain way, they want to peddle fusion as a way to bring in SMRs and to bring nuclear back. It's just a billboard that they're putting up, and they constantly, as they're failing, put billboards up. And they can resonate with the Trump administration and the tech industry at this moment, which is supporting them. How far this wet dream will become a reality is not clear. I mean, the last time they tried it, they got one or two nukes out of it, and it fell flat, and more reactors shuttered.
Thanks. I see Chris wants to add on to.
I think the most important point that I can come up with here is that the new nuclear technologies, either fission or fusion, they're all so far in the future, as well as being incredibly expensive, that we don't have time. And everybody has to realize that the climate change that we all want to try to affect is accelerating now. We've gotten to that part of the parabolic curve where the effects are going to start to increase with every single year. They're going to get worse and worse. We don't have time to let them develop these new nuclear technologies. We have to implement what we can that we know works right now. That's the answer to that question.
Right. And the other thing too is all the money going into nuclear that they've been pushing. I mean, the Biden administration gave Holtec $1.5 billion to restart a dinosaur reactor in Michigan. That should have been going to renewables.
Exactly.
Right.
And so it's really damaging progress.
Right. It's taking away every day, every week. It takes away from the progress that we could be making to mitigate the worst effects of climate change, and we're losing time.
Well, it's actually they are making progress with solar and wind all over the world at this point. And they would make so much more if it wasn't being diverted into this dirty technology. But that progress is going on, and it's really important to say that it is not stymied, but it has not been pushed as much as it could be at this point.
Okay, thanks. And another reminder to make your questions as succinct as possible, because we have a lot of interesting questions. So caller from 773-409-61657, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, how you doing? Jake Aronoff is my name. I'm calling from Chicago. Thank you for your talk. I'm sorry I came in late. I missed the beginning, but I get the general gist. My question is, have there been any scandals in that state concerning the utility companies? I'm referring to a scandal that happened here in state of Illinois a few years ago. Are you familiar with it? Have there been any scandals?
Thank you.
Not the way there had been in Illinois or in Ohio. That hasn't come up that way in terms of, bribery. So
my answer to that question would be that there is that the big scandal with nuclear power in the state of Massachusetts is that a Mark I boiling water reactor, as well as in Vermont, a Mark I boiling water reactor was allowed in each state to be built when they should never have been built, and they should never have been sold overseas. That's the big scandal. The General Electric engineers that knew about what was being done within General Electric tried their best to stop those plants from being built, and they were blacklisted as a result.
Mhm. And the scandal in Massachusetts, and actually at every Holtec site, is the high-level nuclear waste is in high storm 100 casks. They're half-inch steel. They have been given exemptions from the American Society for Mechanical Engineers safety codes. And as we understand, they all may be damaged. And also Holtec was allowed to put the waste in, the high burn-up waste after 2 years in the spent fuel pool, and it should have been in the spent fuel pool cooling at least 5 to 7 years. And it's up on the hill in sight of anybody who wants to get at them, and it's releasing gamma radiation out the vents. So
Right.
that's an ongoing scandal everywhere. So yeah, it's really bad.
But these are the unseen scandals that a weak and captive regulator allows to happen. You know, they were actually, people went to jail for their scandalous behavior in terms of taking bribes. And I think that's part of what that guy was referring to. All of this is unseen. That's part of why the issue of making the invisible visible in all of nuclear is so important.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm going to take a question from the chat, which very straightforwardly says, what about the 10-state governors consortium? I think Governor Hochul is leading it.
In terms of nukes, right? I am not so up on nuclear, but I think she has a consortium in terms of moving forward. The governor of New York is committed to making nuclear power central to her plans. But I don't know enough to talk about it, but I think that's part of what it's about. It doesn't include Massachusetts for all of it.
Okay.
That doesn't let us off the hook, but I don't think it includes Massachusetts.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to turn to the next hand raise. And again, we've got just about 5 minutes left, less than 5 minutes. So let's make our questions succinct. Eileen Kurkowski.
Thank you. Thank you all for making this happen. Excellent presentation. Learned a lot already. I want to make a quick comment and then a simple question that I think it'll be quick to answer. I've been keeping track of the UN General Assembly, and I was so embarrassed I'm surprised I'm even saying this, for Trump. He was terrible, a terrible representative. But what I was hearing, some good stuff, many countries, representatives of countries, were talking about our problem internationally with nuclear. And I was really pleased to hear South Korea very much wants to be part of the TPNW with others. They haven't signed yet. That was good. I'm going to continue watching. It's well worth it. The question, it goes back to the prison. Do you agree that this big prison that is being proposed is for immigrants, maybe? Or is that, it didn't even have to be asked?
Well, that is a little bit beyond the focus of our webinar, but Rosemary, do you want to take that on? I mean, I think you referred to that initially in your short presentation.
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat. Eileen, what's the question?
Yeah, just about whether or not the prison is possibly going to be used for immigrants.
Oh, yeah, that's a suspicion for sure. And it would be very easy, wouldn't it? Since there won't be enough women to fill it up. they'll move on to the next population to
Good point.
in a way that they might make money.
In the chat, Hayat Imam asks, I heard today that that 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania is being put back online just so that TMI can supply the electricity needed for AI. Again, the issue of artificial intelligence by Microsoft. Do you think Healy's responding to this similar demand?
I think Keely's not just responding to it, she's seeking it. She is trying to open the door to data centers. She sees it as a way to bring industry to the state and money to the state. And, you know, Healy is in trouble right now. And it needs to be noted. Taxes have gone up, housing costs have gone up, electricity has gone up. People in Massachusetts are really angry. And part of this legislation she created is a kind of Christmas tree at this point to try to give everybody something so they'll calm down and they won't throw her out of office. And in the middle of that is this poison little ornament, which in fact is trying to bring nukes, to bring data centers, to do all of this to bail out a struggling governor. She's, you know, endlessly doing photo ops, smiling, saving children from burning buildings at this moment, trying to look really groovy so we don't think about all of what's going wrong with Massachusetts at this point, including nuclear power, but not just nuclear power.
Okay, so I'm sorry to see if there are any other questions in the chat. I seem to be missing them. I'm very glad that actually we've revisited this issue of these data centers that are, you know, sucks for energy and also using our water. People actually
endless water.
That's right.
Water. I believe that the phone call, already the phone call already asked the question.
So it is 8:15 and we're just about out of time. I want to thank you all for being present, for our wonderful speakers, for the questions that people asked, and what you put into chat and shared. Thank you so much. We know what we have to do. We know that we've got to contact the Senator Barrett, Representative Cusack, our own representatives, our own people in office. We've got to talk with people around, get them involved, get them to write, get them to call. I like that suggestion of going to, like on Friday, is it right, Friday, to the library. Let's let Maura Healey know that we know what she's doing and we're against it. So thank you all, you know, and what I would like to say.
Could I just say one thing, Susan?
Yeah.
I think this is an incredibly important time because if we can stop Healy from destroying that act that requires this referendum, that requires the people to choose, then this whole thing slows down. And there is the potential to really fight it. This is a fight for the people to do. This is not big groups going to make the change. It is going to be ordinary people contacting their legislators, making it clear to them at this point that this is a really controversial issue and they may get in trouble by the choices they make about their vote on this issue. And this is a time where everyone has to act and call and get 5 people to call and get 5 more people to call, because politicians hate to hear from their people. They hate it. And when it becomes controversial, then they don't want to do anything. And that's what we want. We want them to do nothing at this moment, which is to keep 45 in place.
Okay,
or
amen,
out
Deb.
of the
And thank
legislature.
you. You know, I think at this last moment, I would suggest that everybody, Cole, can we have everybody go to, gallery view
Mhm.
and unmute, everybody unmute, and let's see who's here. And
Yeah.
as a group, let's see if we can all say thank you to our wonderful. Let's see, I gotta have to go on gallery view. Right, okay, all in mute, and let's all say thank you
Thank
to
you.
to our speakers and for the way forward.
Yeah.
Action.
Show up Tuesday, 30th at the library, 11 a.m.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, Cole, please
Hi,
remember,
Joanne.
Cole, please
Hi,
remember
Joanne.
Karen Harris. She wanted to be part of this. She didn't get a link.
Everybody,
I sent it to her many times, Eileen, but yes, I'll send her the final video.
yes,
Oh,
again,
that'll be
again,
fun.
everybody
That's
everybody who registered will get a copy of the video and all the relevant